Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kendrick. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Another good week of NFL football. Thursday Night Football is going to be great between the Buccaneers and the Bears. Nick Foles and Brady meeting again. It'll be the first time that they've met since the infamous Super Bowl in which Nick Foles handed Tom Brady a fat L. This week, though, I think one of the things I really took away from it, there's a lot of stuff around the world in coaching. There's a lot of things involving coaching I started thinking about over this weekend. There's some coaching changes I think that need to be made. There's some coaching changes that have already been made. And there's two coordinators that I believe should be in the running, especially given the season, for next year, and they should be head coaches this coming season. I guess let's go ahead and let's get right into it. So I got a few things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about some coaching changes. I want to talk about Dwayne Haskins. I want to talk about the young rookie quarterbacks in the game. I think it's time for Tua to start, given what we have seen from some of the other kids. And then I'm going to end today's show talking about New England and Kansas City, because I have a lot of takeaways from that game. So let's go ahead and let's get into this. So Bill O'Brien has been fired by the Houston Texans. I think a lot of people did see it coming. Remember, coming into the season, there were so many coach ranking lists and everything, and for whatever reason, and I didn't quite understand it myself, but Bill O'Brien was consistently ranked either the worst head coach in the NFL or among the worst head coaches in the NFL. And the things that people always noted was his situational play calling, his clock management. He just made a lot of mistakes when he should pass it, when he should put the ball in his best player's hands, which is Deshaun Watson. He gives it to the running back 3 straight times, and then he punts it and he loses the game. When he should call for like a short pass, he's calling a long ball, and it doesn't make any sense. His clock management, his use of timeouts, different things like that is why it is that they had him ranked as the worst head coach. And also they note the fact that really, you look at all these division titles he's won, right? In 7 seasons, he's won 4 division titles. Most people would think that's great, until you take into account the rest of his division and you realize, for the most part, it's pretty garbage. Like, for the most part, it has been almost like the NFC East. It's almost like a counterfeit division. The Titans weren't really fooling anybody. The Jaguars were the Jaguars. The Colts were here and there. Was Andrew Luck healthy? No, he wasn't. The team could never get the offensive line right. He was getting beat up and the team was about 500. It just wasn't a good division. So how much credit were you really going to give Bill O'Brien? Well, coming into the season, he was going to get a lot of credit for the things that were going on with the Texans, because a few seasons ago, Bill O'Brien was also made the general manager of the Texans. Now, being the head coach and being the general manager causes a lot of problems, and it can especially cause a lot of problems when it comes to you and your players, the players that you are coaching. Because in many situations, when a player is being traded away, they know it's not the head coach. They know the head coach isn't the one who's trading him. It's the general manager. It's upper in the business. Those are where the decisions are being made. And so they can't get mad at the head coach. The coaching is go, I love the player, but it's out of my hands, man. I can't do anything about it. When it comes to Bill O'Brien, if a player's getting traded, they know exactly where to look. It's Bill O'Brien. And look at some of the trades that have happened over the last few seasons. So they trade away Dwayne Brown because he had some political differences with the now past owner, Steve McNair. They went ahead and they traded him to Seattle. I don't even really remember what they got for him, but it wasn't much. And even that, I mean, Dwayne Brown, he's an older left tackle, and yes, they did get Laramie Tunsil, but like they traded away a guy they already had, and then they eventually traded a haul, like two first round picks or something like that, and like some second round picks for Laramie Tunsil. So I mean, there was that. They traded away Jadeveon Clowney for like 2 linebackers and a second round pick. And even though some people might want to say that the Texans won that trade because Clowney didn't stay in Seattle, you still didn't get any adequate compensation for him, at least not in my mind. And then, of course, the biggest trade this offseason, they traded away DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, and it wasn't for a first round pick. I don't even think it was for a second round pick. I think it was for, it was for David Johnson. Was it David Johnson in a second round pick? Either way, what do you're trading away one of the 3 best wide receivers in the NFL for maybe, and I'm saying maybe, and this is probably being generous, for maybe the 15th best running back in the NFL when he's used properly? Maybe? I mean, it was a terrible trade. Now you look at DeAndre Hopkins, and like he leads the league in catches, I believe, or at least he's like number 2, number 3, something like that. He's been sensational for the Cardinals. And even though the Cardinals have kind of sputtered a little bit, he's been outstanding, and the Texans are 0-4, and Will Fuller's a nice receiver, but he's not DeAndre Hopkins. And then you look, they traded for Brandon Cook, so then they're eating his salary, his massive salary that he got from the Rams. You're paying David Johnson his massive salary that you got from the Cardinals, and basically what it kind of came down to was Bill O'Brien really did Bill O'Brien, the GM, did Bill O'Brien, the head coach, a huge disservice. Because he traded away their best players, they traded away the draft future, and then he told Bill O'Brien, the head coach, you need to coach all that. Bill O'Brien, he coached 100 games exactly during his tenure with the Texans. He was 52-48, with 4 division titles. He was 2-4 in the playoffs. He was kinda blah. And he did this in a really bad division. It's almost kind of Jason Garrett-esque, right? You're just barely above 500. You've won some playoff games, but you haven't won a whole lot. You've won the division a couple of times, but not a whole lot. Even though I think maybe in the long run, I think that Bill O'Brien was better than Jason Garrett, but they're pretty similar guys. Their teams were just kind of blah. They weren't really motivational dudes. They were both offensive-leaning guys, but their offenses were never exactly insane. In Dallas, throw it up to Dez Bryant, run the football. Over with Houston, it was you throw it up to DeAndre Hopkins, watch him make a spectacular play. I think Bill O'Brien's a great guy. I think he's a great guy. I think he might get another shot to at least be an offensive coordinator, because I don't think he wants to leave the game. But as a head coach, I don't know if he'll get another shot for it. I really don't. I think that Bill O'Brien, the GM, really screwed Bill O'Brien, the head coach. He tried to make some moves because of salary and everything, because they would have to pay Deshaun Watson eventually. But I think this is a chance for now the Texans to get a really good head coach. To go to another team where I think they need to make a head coaching change. The Detroit Lions. Matt Patricia, following their loss to the Saints, said when he went to the team, there was a lot of work that needed to be done, and they're trying to do that work. That is a lie. When he went to the Lions, he went to a team where their record the previous 4 years was 11-5, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7. And for whatever reason, the Lions said, Caldwell, you're not doing a good enough job. This team isn't really flashy. It's just kind of blah. It's average. We want better. We want a Patriot. We want a disciple of Bill Belichick. So they hired Matt Patricia. They hired him in 2018. Matt Patricia, in his time with the Lions, is 10-25-1. He has been terrible. And I will hand you this, right? The Lions under Jim Caldwell, their defense wasn't great. Their defense really, really struggled. And that was one of the areas they thought Matt Patricia could help them in. I remember after his first year, The Lions went from one of the worst tackling teams in the NFL to, I think, top 5. So, the defense did kind of get better. They got a lot better at tackling, but you look at the overall record of the team, they've sucked. They have gotten even worse when it comes to winning games. They're one of the worst teams in the league. They are consistently picking in the top half of the draft. They're just not good. And for Matt Patricia to say that they needed so much work going into it. This team had one losing season in the previous 4 years before you got there. What do you mean they needed more work? And this is kind of where that discrepancy comes in. People talk about the short leashes that black head coaches get as compared to white head coaches, because Matt Patricia he hasn't even sniffed Jim Caldwell. Hasn't even sniffed him when it comes to what he's done with the Lions. And Jim Caldwell, he doesn't even have a job right now. I think Jim Caldwell's last job was he was an assistant head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and I believe that was with Adam Gase. And we all know the problems with Adam Gase, so how fair was it really? Jim Caldwell right now, he's just out there. Do I think he deserves to be a head coach again? I mean, maybe. It can't hurt. It can't hurt to interview him. It can't hurt to kick the tires on it. Other guys get second chances. Why can't Jim Caldwell? And I actually think that when it comes to Matt Patricia, he has a lot of Adam Gase going on in him. I think Matt Patricia thinks he's smarter and better than he is. And I think Matt Patricia, and you can just remember from Darius Slay, who used to play for the Lions, who now plays for the Eagles, he had a quote on Matt Patricia, and he said that he and Matt Patricia, they never got along. And a big reason why they didn't get along was because of something Matt Patricia said to him. If I remember it correctly, it was Darius Slay posted something on Instagram, and it was of another player, and he was kind of giving the player some love. He was shouting them out. I think they're friends, and so he was just kind of giving out another player some love. And Matt Patricia saw this and told him to stop doing an obscene gesture involving the player. And Darius Slay basically said, where he comes from, those kind of comments are unacceptable. And so from that point on, he didn't respect Matt Patricia. He never liked him. He never would like him. He would never gain his respect. And ultimately now Darius Slay no longer plays for the team. He now plays for the Eagles. Is it necessarily a better situation overall? Maybe. Maybe not. But at least head coaching wise, it is. Matt Patricia's another guy where I don't think he really gets along with any of his players except for former New England guys. Other than that, I don't think he gets along with anybody else. You know what, he brought over Jamie Collins and Danny Amendola. I think they brought over somebody else, but I can't remember. I think it was a safety. I mean, those seem to be the only players that they get along with. And I think these teams, they need to stop hiring disciples of Bill Belichick. They don't work. A lot of people think Brian Flores might be the guy to break the mold because of what he's doing with Miami. He's keeping Miami looking competitive. They don't look completely lost the way other teams have under Josh McDaniels or under under Matt Patricia and so on and so forth. They're saying maybe he's different. Maybe he is. Who knows? We gotta wait and see if the Dolphins can actually really start stringing together some wins here. And I don't think that's going to happen really this season, or maybe even the next season. I think it might take some time. Because the Dolphins have a lot of holes. So, and it's not going to be a quick fix. I think the Dolphins over the next few years, especially if they start Tua, I think they'll be really competitive. I think they should get better. They're drafting pretty well. They're signing good people in free agency. I can't wait to see. I hope Brian Flores does succeed. But it's not a guarantee. He could end up just like every other Patriots disciple ever, who they seem to go to a team and they flame out. We're still going to have to wait and see what happens with Joe Judge. I'm going to wait and see how much longer the Lions keep Matt Patricia around. But as I said, Bill O'Brien's been fired. I think Adam Gase is going to be fired. I think Dan Quinn's going to be fired. I think Matt Patricia should be fired. So there's going to be some head coaching opportunities this coming offseason. I think there's 2 coordinators in the league right now who, following this season, should be interviewed for head coaching jobs, and they both should get a job. I think one of them should get a job first, given his resume, but they both should be in the running for jobs. And it's Brian Daboll, who is the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. Now, I think Eric Bieniemy really deserves to have a head coaching job first. Do I think he'll get it first? Probably not. He'll probably get hired second. But do I believe he's going to get one following the season? I do. Eric Bieniemy, he is the overall play caller of the Kansas City Chiefs. It is not Andy Reid. Does Andy Reid sometimes put his hand in the pot for offensive play calling? Sure he does. Sometimes he does. Eric Bieniemy, he'll run some things by him. I remember, I think in the clip of Patrick Mahomes saying he wanted to run Wasp, he told who? Eric Bieniemy. Went over, kind of talked it out with Andy Reid. They went ahead and they ran the play. It worked to perfection. The Chiefs' offense, since Patrick Mahomes took over, has been outstanding. Motion, the kinds of route combinations they run, they've been incredible. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he runs the league. And of course, it helps to have all the great weapons that they do, but you still got to put them in position to succeed. Right? Look at Odell over in Cleveland. Under Freddie Kitchens, Odell's a great player. Under Freddie Kitchens, Odell looked like just another receiver. He had a few great catches. He looked like just another receiver. But then, now under Stefanski, it looks like Stefanski is kind of learning how to use Odell Beckham a bit more. Odell's starting to look like that Odell from the Giants. That's what you need, to put good players in position to succeed. Eric Bieniemy does that, and he's done it season after season after season. And for whatever reason, I think like even last year, I think he got an interview, and that was it. Like he got a interview, and he didn't get a job. I mean, it is ridiculous, right? When you see Joe Judge gets a job when all he's ever been is a special teams coordinator over a guy like Eric Bieniemy with what he's been doing with Patrick Mahomes, it's crazy. And that is when, once again, the narrative comes out, white head coaches get more of these jobs, they get more handouts than black head coaches do. And I know people don't like to hear it, but it's just kind of the truth. And then as for Brian Daboll, he's not a black offensive coordinator, but he's a damn good one. He is a damn good coordinator who I think, if this season continues the way it looks like it's going to, with Josh Allen probably being a top 10 quarterback, if this season continues this way, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get an interview. Now, I think Eric Bieniemy deserves it more, because I think he's had a longer history of success, especially when you look over these last few years. You look at Pat Mahomes the last 3 years, and you look at Josh Allen the last 3 years. Josh Allen for 2 years looked rough. Remember, I've talked about it multiple times. He looked rough going into the season. Couldn't complete over 60% of his passes. Couldn't throw over 300 yards in a game. I was like, is he really the guy? This season he looks like the guy. And I give a lot of credit to Brian Daboll and what he does with Josh Allen. He puts him in great positions to succeed. Clearly, he is a teacher. They have a great coaching staff there. It's a well-oiled machine. And even though you'd like to keep it together, coordinators are always trying to become head coaches, man. Coordinators, most of them, want to become a head coach. So then when I kind of think about which teams would they really fit into, I would love to see Eric Bieniemy go to Houston. Because I think Deshaun Watson, with Eric Bieniemy's play calling, would be incredible. Now, if he's going to go to Houston, he needs a few-year deal. He needs like a 5-year commitment, because they don't have any draft picks right now. Bill O'Brien made sure to trade all those away. I think they need to give Eric Bieniemy some time. So I would say, give him like a 5-year deal, 6-year deal, something like that. Bring him in. I think he and Deshaun Watson would be special. And could it fail? Could Eric Bieniemy be more of an offensive coordinator than a head coach? Sure. But look at Matt Nagy and look at Doug Peterson. You know who they learned from? Andy Reid. They've both been pretty good, haven't they? For Brian Daboll, I don't really know where he's going to go. I think Atlanta is always an interesting opportunity, but I would imagine most head coaches, they would rather go and work with a quarterback they can really grow up with and that they can really have for the long run, because guys like Matt Ryan, like Matt Stafford, some of these guys who are available, maybe Sam Darnold. I think the Jets would, especially if they go and they keep Sam Darnold, or better yet, if they go ahead and they use that first round pick on Trevor Lawrence, you pair Brian Daboll with a rookie quarterback, the two can grow together, that would probably be an outstanding pairing. And hey, if it looks anything like it does in Buffalo, if he can teach Trevor Lawrence the way he has been teaching Josh Allen, I think there's going to be a star in New York. It then just comes down to, can you actually surround them with good pieces? So I don't really know. But I think there's going to be a lot of head coaching changes. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made this season. And I'm just interested to see where some of these teams go. And especially even, and it's funny to bring this up, but the Cowboys. Is Mike McCarthy really the guy? I mean, really. Is he really the head coach? Should he really be the head coach? I put a lot of blame on Kellen Moore, but I also put a lot of blame on Mike McCarthy. I'm just saying, if the Cowboys finish this season well below 500, Jerry Jones does not like for his team to suck. And I don't think under Jason Garrett, I think it finished below 500 one season, and it was just because Tony Romo was out. I'm just saying, if they finish below 500, I would not be surprised to see Jerry Jones just absolutely drop the hammer on Mike McCarthy. Anyways, coming up next, we're going to talk about some Dwayne Haskins. There's apparently a possibility that he could get benched if he doesn't start playing better, and I think that is just flat out ridiculous. That coming up next.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Last segment talked about some coaching changes I believe that need to take place, some coaching changes that have took place, and some coaching changes that I'm going to predict are going to take place. I do believe that it was right to fire Bill O'Brien, even though he's dominated his division over the last 7 years. It's been a weak division. He's made a lot of terrible decisions as a GM, and I think there might be a case of maybe they more wanted to fire the GM of the Texans, but because the GM is also the head coach, you just kind of have to fire both of them. Matt Patricia, I think he needs to go. Adam Gase needs to go. Dan Quinn needs to go. And I believe Eric Bieniemy and Brian Daboll are two people who should instantly get head coaching offers following this season. Even during the season, if it comes out in Super Bowl, everything like that, usually we hear that there have been deals already agreed upon. Eric Bieniemy should have a deal already agreed upon, and I believe the same for Brian Daboll. Maybe you make Brian Daboll kind of prove it for another season with Josh Allen, because obviously the previous 2 years of Josh Allen haven't been great. This is the first season where Josh Allen has looked like a true NFL quarterback, a true elite NFL quarterback. Maybe you make him prove it for another season, or people are just going to, they'll build into the hype and they'll go ahead and they'll hire him now rather than later. Either way, I think it'd be a great decision. So, Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback of the Washington football team. He was a former first-round pick just literally a season ago, and when he was drafted to the Washington football team, Jay Gruden was the head coach. He was going to be on his way out. Then Callahan took over, and there was just all the drama revolving around the team. It just wasn't well run. The GM, the owner, the head coach, the controversy there and everything. I mean, it's been a mess. And the Washington football team in general, this whole off-season has been an absolute mess. We've seen all the articles, changing their name, the harassment, everything that's gone on in it. Jay Gruden benching a player because the player was supposedly sleeping with someone that he was sleeping with, and he didn't like it. And then the backup is the person that ended up kind of getting Alex Smith hurt. I mean, there's just so much going on with this franchise. But Dwayne Haskins, he was drafted into this mess, and we've talked a lot, or at least I have talked a lot, about these younger quarterbacks, these rookies, these guys who look like they should be hits in the NFL, getting drafted into bad franchises and basically falling apart, i.e. Sam Darnold, i.e. Josh Rosen. Two guys, really talented in college, looked like they should be hits in the NFL. One went to the Cardinals, one went to the Jets, and now you look at both of their situations. Even though Sam Darnold is still starting, he is surrounded by chaos, and it is just not a pretty situation. And when it comes to Dwayne Haskins, his situation in Washington has gone from bad to worse. So his agent took to Twitter a few days ago. I believe it was on the 4th. He took to Twitter because Ian Rappaport had tweeted out and said that there was a lot of pressure on Dwayne Haskins, and that if he didn't play well in his last game, that there was the possibility that they could move on from him, that they could go ahead and bench him, and that they could start somebody else. Well, his agent went ahead and saw it, took to Twitter, and said, "Amazing, this is the narrative coming out of DC. A young QB, 10 starts total over 2 seasons, that's now up to 11, so only 11 starts in his whole career, who is in a brand new system with no offseason in said new system, a young O-line, limited weapons on offense, and only 3 games into the NFL season, yet he is the one who must play well." Now, obviously, they played their 4th game. Again, they lost. Dwayne Haskins didn't look great, but then again, it is Baltimore. Not many teams are going to look good against Baltimore. Not many teams are Kansas City. Not many teams have the blueprint to shutting down Lamar. And even though Lamar didn't play an outstanding game, when you look at his overall passing numbers, he had the long touchdown run. All in all, he played his game, and Washington just couldn't handle him. And again, Dwayne Haskins, he just looks rough. And what else could you expect? 11 starts, and what do you expect the kid to look like? Patrick Mahomes? Not everyone is Patrick Mahomes. Now, Dwayne Haskins' situation has gone from bad to worse because he did get benched, and not only did he get benched, he has been doghoused because he is now quarterback number 3 on the depth chart. So he is not only behind Alex Smith, who is now the backup, he's behind Kyle Allen, who was Ron Rivera's guy over in Carolina after Cam Newton got hurt. Now, Kyle Allen, he's okay. He's not anything special. I think right now you could say that he is better than Dwayne Haskins because Dwayne Haskins' numbers are not impressive at all. Okay, he looks like a young, inexperienced QB where the game is still a bit too fast for him. But even then, you don't even give the guy a season? I just... That to me screams about the dysfunction that still goes on in the Washington football team. It really does just scream dysfunction. This guy can't even get a full season starting under his belt before you part ways with him. I think at least Josh Rosen, in his whole time with Miami and with the Cardinals, I do believe he has 16 starts. I think so, because he started the majority of his rookie year, and he started a few games over in Miami. I think in total he has a little bit over 16 starts, maybe 17, 18. And they've gone ahead and they said, like, no, we're not doing this with Rosen. And they went ahead and they benched him, and now Rosen's obviously on the practice squad of the Buccaneers. But that is what Dwayne Haskins been. He got Rosen. This team drafted him in the first round. They spent their first round pick on this guy, and then 11 total starts later, he is now not only on the bench, he's under the bench. And I don't get it. It makes me think, why did they draft him in the first place? But again, This is what happens when the GM and the head coach aren't guys that drafted you. That's why this season was so important for Baker Mayfield. Because if Baker Mayfield didn't play well, this GM is not attached to him. This head coach is not attached to him. So he needs to fit in and get better as soon as possible. And obviously you see what the Browns are doing right now. They look great, and Baker Mayfield looks like he'll actually be able to keep his job, and he might actually even be better. This is the system he should be in. Here's one of my problems with this thing with Dwayne Haskins. So I'm going to talk about this from both sides because I do see it from both angles. So to talk about this side of it from how it's not fair with Dwayne Haskins, I'm going to read you some numbers of a quarterback right now who's currently tearing up the league, but I'm going to read you his rookie quarterback numbers. This quarterback started 11 games his rookie season. He played in 12, but he started 11. He completed 52.8% of his passes, 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks. A quarterback rating of 67.9. Do you know what quarterback that is? That's Josh Allen, his rookie year. That was in 11 starts. 12 games played, 11 starts. Dwayne Haskins, 11 total starts. Here are Dwayne Haskins' numbers. 2,000 yards, 59% completion, 11 touchdowns, 10 picks. His numbers are identical and even just a smidge better than Josh Allen's in his rookie season. And this is technically Dwayne Haskins' rookie season. This is how I kind of count it. This is basically his rookie season. Just as Patrick Mahomes' first season starting in the NFL, that was his rookie season to me. Because he started one game as a rookie. It was the last game of the season. Other than that, he had been redshirted the whole year. He wasn't going to see the field. And then he came out the second year. Game Busters MVP was incredible. This is Dwayne Haskins' rookie season. This was the year he was supposed to be the starter of the team, and the team has flat out quit on him. And I do not understand it. His numbers are identical to Josh Allen's when he was coming into the league. Sam Darnold's numbers as a rookie were not good. He had some flash plays, but he was not good. Do people remember Jared Goff when he came into the league? Number 1 overall pick. He came in under that Jeff Fisher team. Jared Goff looked like a high school quarterback trying to play in the NFL. He looked terrible. I remember sitting there watching Jared Goff. He couldn't throw the ball. He could barely complete a pass downfield. He looked overwhelmed. He was getting rocked. And I honestly thought the Rams made one of the worst first overall picks of all time. I really thought Jared Goff was going to go down in history as one of the busts in NFL history. And now look at him. Jared Goff under Sean McVay is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He is still a one-read style quarterback. His system is still really based off of going to the first read. A lot of power running, a lot of play action. That is where he's best at, but that's okay. That is completely okay. You can win with Jared Goff. Jared Goff is good enough to get you to a Super Bowl, and I think he's good enough to win it with you. When it comes to Dwayne Haskins, I don't know if he's that good. But then again, we also haven't even gotten a chance to really see him. Maybe it's the system. Maybe it is the surrounding cast. I don't know what I don't know. I think there's a lot of problems in Washington. There's a lot of blame to go around. Dwayne Haskins himself has some really bad throws. He makes some really careless mistakes. I know a lot of people want to hang on to the image of him signing an autograph when when he was supposed to be out there taking a knee to kneel out the clock. I get it. Not a good look. But for him to be benched this quickly, it just doesn't sit right with me. It really doesn't. It just doesn't sit right with me. I feel like he should at least get a full season to start before you go ahead and bench him. He's a first-round pick. First-round picks are supposed to give you the leeway to at least have like a season or two to be a bust. You should at least get more than one season before a team goes ahead and says, hey, your job's on the... Look at Trubisky, man. Trubisky, he's gotten... This is his 4th year. And he only now got benched. Is Trubisky better than Dwayne Haskins? I mean, he's a better athlete. Josh Allen, I mean, he's a better athlete. They're more mobile threats than Dwayne Haskins. So maybe if Dwayne Haskins had more mobility, maybe the Washington would sit there and say, well, maybe we'll have to incorporate more of his running into the game plan, and then, we'll keep defenses more off balance. He's not really that. So maybe it's just a thing of the times have changed. Who knows? And this is kind of where I want to get into the other side of it. Look at some of the younger quarterbacks out there that have hit, and look at the immediate success that they've had. Let's just go with this season and some of the rookies that I'm going to talk about in my next topic. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. Look at how good they look out the gate. And while Justin Herbert really does have some true offensive weapons, he's got a good supporting cast around him. Look over at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow right now looks miles ahead of Dwayne Haskins. And can we really say that he has a better supporting cast than Dwayne Haskins? I don't think so. They both have one really good receiver, Tyler Boyd over with the Bengals and Terry McLaurin over with Washington. Neither of them really have a tight end. Joe Mixon is a really good running back for the Bengals, and while Washington has a pretty good stable of running backs, both of their offensive lines, I would say, are kind of the same. I would actually say, though, that Washington's, at least at guard, is probably better. So you can maybe make an argument that Dwayne Haskins has an overall better supporting cast, and his numbers are worse. He, just by the eye test, looks worse. Joe Burrow looks calm, poised, and he keeps his team in every game. Washington, for the most part, it's their defense that keeps them in these games. Dwayne Haskins, he kind of throws it away. So, I mean, I understand that. Justin Herbert, he looks great with the Chargers. Burrow so far, he looks great with the Bengals. And then you think about some of the other younger quarterbacks in this game who hit the ground running. Dak Prescott hit the ground running. Carson Wentz, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson when he came in, he hit the ground running. Lamar Jackson legitimately hit the ground running. Maybe this is just the league that we're in at this point. Maybe now, and because it's a known fact, like if you have a good young quarterback, you have this window of opportunity to really maximize your Super Bowl, and it's on their rookie contract. Most teams, when you draft a quarterback in the first round, you've got 5 years to win a Super Bowl before you have to pay them. You got 5 years. You better make the most of it. So maybe they look at their situation with Dwayne Haskins and they see he's putting up Josh Allen-esque numbers. And you have to remember, before the season, there were people calling for Josh Allen's job. They were saying, this team is so good, Josh Allen is wasting away this team. And I was one of those people saying the Bills should honestly look, if Josh Allen doesn't take a step this season, they should really look at moving on from him because his numbers are not good. His numbers are worse than Dwayne Haskins. But you know what happened this season? Josh Allen exploded. He's been in the same system with the same offensive coordinator. He was given time to learn, and he's popped. Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't gotten that luxury. He's only been in the league now. This is his second season. And already his team has moved on from him. This could just be the league we're in now. Because of all the college schemes that have been brought into the NFL, because of all the quarterback camps, because of everything that there is to help these quarterbacks succeed and succeed quickly, maybe we are just at a point where if you come into the league and if we don't see flashes of your greatness in your rookie season and year number 2, you don't like you've learned anything, maybe we just need to move on from you. Maybe you just don't have it. That could very well be it. It could also be because Dwayne Haskins doesn't even really have the possibility of being a mobile threat. At least so far, he hasn't really shown it. Maybe they look at it and say, we have a one-dimensional quarterback who isn't very great. He's still very, very raw. We need to move on. I don't know if Washington's necessarily going to be better, though, even with Kyle Allen. Even though Kyle Allen, I think, is better than Dwayne Haskins, how much better is this team supposed to be? I still think they're going to be one of the 10 worst. I think their defense can keep them in some games because it's good enough. But all in all, I think they're still going to be one of the 10 worst teams. I think they're going to have a high draft pick. And I honestly think they're going to have a chance to draft one of these quarterbacks. I think they will. I think they have a chance to be bad enough to be a top 5 pick and have a chance at Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. I think more likely it would be Justin Fields or Trey Lance, who is already declared for the NFL draft. I think it's an unfortunate situation. It really is. I feel bad for Dwayne Haskins because I never want to see guys just lose their job like this. Even Josh Allen. I didn't want to just see the team give up on him before he was really given a chance. I wanted him to have a chance to fail. And I thought he kind of did. I thought he did kind of fail. I didn't think he played super well. I thought it was the Blake Bortles effect. You had this quarterback who was good enough to keep your head above water, but at the same time, he's the reason the boat was getting water in the first place. He's the one who put the hole in the boat. Dwayne Haskins, he was set up to fail. 11 starts. He got 11 starts in his career. And Washington said goodbye. And they have now put him on as a third stringer. There is no way he's going to stay on Washington, I think, past the season. There's just no way. What are you going to do? After the season is over, are you going to look at him and go, all right, man, you're going to be our starting quarterback again? Oh, hell no. If I was Dwayne Haskins, I say trade me. Trade me as soon as possible. I'm not sticking around for this. You not only benched me, you put me behind Alex Smith, who hasn't played football in damn near in 2 years. Oh, no. No. I'm done. And I know there's some people who don't like to talk about this, but it would be wrong of me to not bring this up. Can we just talk about the discrepancy there is when it comes to white QBs and black QBs? There is a narrative, black QBs, back in the day, they weren't smart enough to handle the position. They didn't have the mental toughness, the mental awareness to handle the position. And then even if they do get the job, they are under so much scrutiny. Their leash is so much shorter. They have so much less room to fail. Is Dwayne Haskins not proof of that? His numbers, again, are identical to Josh Allen's through 11 starts. They are legitimately the same. Less interceptions, more touchdowns, better completion percentage. They're identical. And yet Josh Allen's over here, his team gave him more of a chance to start, and again, maybe that just has to do with it's the same GM, it was the same head coach, they liked him, they drafted him, they wanted to give him a chance. That's just not the luxury that Dwayne Haskins got. It could be just that. You know, I'm not saying that is Ron Rivera's thinking. I'm not saying that's the GM's thinking. I'm not saying that is 100% what happened to Dwayne Haskins, but I am saying that is a narrative that has been around black quarterbacks, black head coaches, black people in general in the NFL. Certain positions you were thought to not have the kind of toughness for it, and they gave you a really short leash. Dwayne Haskins' situation, you look at it, it's just wrong. It's really shady. It's really wrong. And I feel like it just screams about the dysfunction of Washington. That's what it says to me. I don't know if he's going to get another shot to start. You look at Rosen. I thought for sure Rosen at some point would get a chance to start again. It doesn't seem like it's happening. So, I don't know. It's just a mess. But anyways, coming up next, we're going to get into some more young quarterback talk. We're going to get into Burrow, Herbert, because they are shining. Should it be time for Tua to start? And then coming up, my final topic of the day, we're going to recap some New England, Kansas City. Gilmore tested positive for COVID. He ended up getting in contact with Patrick Mahomes. We're going to talk about that.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Last segment talked about Dwayne Haskins and the situation he is in as it pertains to the Washington football team. Him now not even being a backup. He has now been doghoused to the third string quarterback, which I think is just wrong. I think it's wrong. He doesn't even have a full season of starting under his belt yet, and yet they already feel like they just know enough about him to say, oh, yeah, we can't win with him. We have a better chance of winning with Kyle Allen as our starter, as opposed to Dwayne Haskins. At the same time, though, I do get it. The league is so offensive leaning, the league is so quarterback friendly that maybe they just look at Dwayne Haskins and they're like, we can't afford to teach this guy. We can't afford for this guy to be this slow. We need to win, and we need to win now. We have the talent to win right now. We can't win with this guy. I guess I do understand that. You look at Mahomes, you look at Lamar, you look at even like Kyler Murray, his rookie season, you look at some of these other quarterbacks that hit the ground and they hit it running, and they were instantly winning games and looking impressive. You look at Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't really looked that. He puts his team in a lot of holes. He is a turnover machine so far. And even though I don't think it's all his fault, I think a lot of it is that he's just a young player who's trying to adjust to the speed of the game. This is just the hand he's been dealt. And it's just unfortunate. But speaking of younger quarterbacks and their performances this season, there's two guys I gotta give a big shout out to. One is Joe Burrow, and the other is Justin Herbert. Both of these guys have been outstanding this season. Now, both the teams suck. The Bengals suck, and so do the Chargers. I thought the Chargers were going to be way, way better, and they're just not. They're 1-3, and the Bengals, they're 1-2-1. I mean, kind of, that's better than I thought they'd be. I thought the Bengals would be 0-4, but they're 1-2-1. That's pretty good. I thought the Chargers would at least be like 3-1, maybe 4-0. I thought they were going to be a serious, at least a serious contender kind of team that could upset somebody in the playoffs. It doesn't even look like they're going to get there. Taylor in the offense just didn't look the same. Herbert's in there, but he makes some rookie mistakes. He made some rookie mistakes against Tampa Bay, and that's the ultimate reason why they lost the game. Tom Brady got hot. Herbert struggled, threw a terrible interception. The mistakes happen. But can we just look at the numbers of these guys? So you look at Herbert through 3 NFL starts. He has 931 yards, 6 total touchdowns, 4 total turnovers. It's pretty good. 3 starts, 900 yards. I mean, he's averaging 300 yards a game. You look at Burrow. Through 4 starts, he's got 1,121 yards, 7 total touchdowns, to only 3 turnovers. For the Bengals, and not to mention, he is one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL. Joe Burrow has been under pressure over 51 times in under 2.5 seconds. More than any other quarterback in the league. He gets beat up on a consistent basis. I think he's the most hit and the most sacked quarterback this season. And yet you look at his numbers, he's been incredible. And you look at the teams fight every single game. They never seem... I don't think the Bengals ever think they're really out of a game. I think every single game they go in there thinking they're going to compete hard and that they have a chance to win it. Or at least Joe Burrow does. He's been great. And Pro Football Focus, they went ahead and they tweeted out a little statistic they had, and they looked at the best rookie quarterback grades through 4 games since 2006. So from number 1 to number 4... because they only did the top 4. 2016, Carson Wentz. He had a 90.7. Elite. And people have to remember, that season really I think he finished with close to as many interceptions as he did touchdowns, but early in the season, everyone saw the magic that could be Carson Wentz. Number 2 is Robert Griffin. He had an 81.4 back in 2012. Number 3 is Joe Burrow with a 79.9, and number 4, hey, it's Gardner Minshew with a 77.3. Joe Burrow is outstanding, and he's a hit, and this is kind of the thing of barring catastrophic injury, like, say, Robert Griffin III, barring multiple injuries that might be nagging, that might have kind of robbed him of his ability, i.e. Carson Wentz, Joe Burrow is going to be outstanding. And then you look at Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert started a game against Kansas City when he had about, how many minutes was it? 5 minutes? before kickoff that he didn't even know he was going to start. And then he goes out there, throws 300 yards, has a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown in the first half. He took Kansas City to overtime. Now, maybe that was more about their defense being able to really handle Mahomes in the offense. Maybe that was just more about Mahomes and the company just not totally clicking on all cylinders yet. Who knows what it is? But he almost beat them, and then he's up on Tampa Bay, almost beat them, but Tom Brady was Tom Brady in the second half. They came back, and I think this is a testament to kind of where the game is at this point in time. The game at this point in time is so friendly to quarterbacks. They've incorporated so many college systems. There's so many quarterback camps as these guys go up through high school and through college. They're just more ready now than ever. And so many of these guys, it's like I said before, the days of the pocket passer have kind of come and gone. Now, it doesn't mean pocket passers can't still be successful. They can. It's just the game plan is limited. Like with Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't really shown to be a mobile threat. It doesn't mean he isn't, but he hasn't shown it. He looks to pass first, as I think most quarterbacks do, but you would like them to have some form of mobility. I think, like, if anybody, I think a lot of people would like their quarterback. Of course, you'd like them to have Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton or Russell Wilson's escapability, but not many have it. I think a lot of people would like their quarterback to be somewhat like Josh Allen, somewhat like Kirk Cousins, from the standpoint of they are fast enough and they're mobile enough to get first downs with their feet, to, tuck it, run, be able to outrun some linebackers. Of course, there's other things that you might not like about Kirk Cousins, like the fact that he checks it down a lot, doesn't really want to take, doesn't really seem to want to air it out downfield and take the risk. But you're lying if you say he's not mobile. You're lying. He's mobile enough. Even Derek Carr, he's mobile. He just, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to want to run. He doesn't want to risk taking the hit. And then, of course, there's guys like Big Ben or Josh Allen who seem to want to take the hit. They're okay with taking the hit. You would rather them not take the hit. But Herbert, Burrow, I think they're set. I think these guys are the starters. I feel really, really bad for Taylor. I do. I feel bad for him because this was supposed to be his job. He got ran out of Buffalo, didn't get a chance. He then got basically ran out of Cleveland, didn't really get the chance. And now with the Chargers, another situation in which he didn't really get the chance. And it's because his doctor stabbed him, punctured his lung. First off, how long is that needle? Secondly, how deep did he put that thing in his chest? What was the doctor trying to numb? That's my question, because that's crazy. I feel like there's got to be a lawsuit there somewhere. I feel like more information will come out as the season goes on. I know some people, they did some looking into the history of the Chargers. They found that the Chargers don't necessarily hire the greatest of medical personnel. They've had some very controversial doctors in their history, so I have no clue. I feel like more information as the season goes along will come out, or maybe they'll try their best to just keep that in-house. Who knows? But Burrow comes in, he's been a hit. Herbert comes in, he has been a hit, and now it's time for the Dolphins. The Dolphins need to go ahead and put Tua in. Fitzpatrick, look, I love Fitzpatrick. I really do. I think Fitzpatrick is fun. I think he's good for the game. The beard, the look, the charisma, the way he plays. He's an old man out there who's just playing and having fun. And you can see it. And he has games where he looks like the greatest quarterback on the planet. And he has some games where you wonder how he even has an NFL job. But on the season, Fitzpatrick's numbers. 994 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 picks, a passer rating of 83.5. It's not great. These are kind of Fitzpatrick's numbers. This is who he is for his career. He has 214 touchdowns, 166 interceptions. His career passer rating is 81.6. Like, this is just who he is. He has some games where he's able to throw like 2 touchdowns, and then he'll follow it up with a game where he throws 2 picks and no touchdowns. And then he'll have a game where he throws 5 touchdowns and a game where he throws 6 interceptions. This is just who he is. But and the whole reason why Tua is on the bench in the first place is because of his health. Let's be real. It's because of his hip. And the Dolphins do not want to subject him to taking any bad hits. Well, look, I understand wanting to protect him, but man, what good is keeping him on the bench going to do at this point? Just what good? I feel like the best game experience is in-game experience. And while I do think it is very, very beneficial for a young quarterback to be able to sit on the sideline and to be able to learn and be able to kind of soak up information like Patrick Mahomes did with Alex Smith, like Kaepernick did with Alex Smith, I think it's very good, like Sam Darnold was doing with Josh McCown, except Sam Darnold was actually starting and just learning from Josh McCown. I think it's very, very valuable. But I look at the Dolphins' schedule and I look at some of their upcoming games. I see they face the Niners next, they face the Broncos next, and it's the Chargers, it's the Rams, it's the Cardinals. I think, looking at their schedule, there's a few different places that they could go ahead and start Tua, and I think it would be okay. I think if they started him in 2 weeks against the Broncos, I think that'd be okay. The Broncos are without Von Miller, they are without Jarrell Casey, and even though they do have some other good players on that team, I think that's a defense that he could probably take advantage of. That would be a good defense to start him out against. If you wait 4 weeks into the future against the Cardinals, maybe Chandler Jones would scare you, but the rest of the defense, I don't know. The Cardinals' defense isn't great. It's not a great defense. Go ahead and start him there. Against the Jets, maybe you'd avoid it. Maybe you would because Greg Williams is going to headhunt him probably. But against the Jets you could. The Bengals are later on the schedule. The Raiders are later on the schedule. I mean, there's a few different places you could start Tua. But at the end of the day, if you're telling me Justin Herbert, who I don't remember any draft scout saying was more pro-ready than Burrow or Tua, if he can go out there against the defending Super Bowl champions and take them to overtime, and Tua can't start a single game? Just because you're afraid of his hip? Or because you want him to learn the game? I mean, what sense does that make? You're either telling me that hip is even worse than we know, or you're telling me that he's not ready to play. And I don't think it's that he's not ready to play. I just can't. I can't imagine that Herbert, with his system he was in Oregon, and his talent, I can't imagine he was more pro-ready than Tua. Okay, there was an argument for Joe Burrow, and because of his system, and then you just look at the talent he faced, how many teams he faced that had NFL players on it, and he had the best statistical season probably of any college quarterback of all time, given his schedule, given his efficiency, the yards, the touchdown, everything. You could maybe make the argument there, but as for Tua, he has to be ready to play. How much worse can he be than Herbert? If he comes out and he's worse, then, I mean, okay, I guess, go ahead and sit him back down. Maybe he's not ready, but at the same time, man, put the kid in, put him in against an easier defense. Like I said, I think the Broncos, that could be a defense you could put him up against. Maybe if you want to wait down the schedule, put him up against the Jets, put him up against the Cardinals. I mean, there are some other easier defenses that he can go against. I'm not saying you need to start him against the Niners next. That is what Fitzpatrick, he will be starting. The Miami Dolphins have already announced that. But, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think Tua, at this point, he has to be ready to play. It has to be Tua time. Okay, I'm kind of tired of watching Fitzpatrick. I haven't seen the Fitzpatrick game yet, where he airs it out for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. I haven't seen it this season yet. I don't think I'm going to see it with this kind of talent. I just think it's time to put him in. But this does make me then think about the Packers. Because the Packers, they drafted the 4th quarterback in the draft, and it was Jordan Love. You look at Tua. He's the backup. Justin Herbert. He was the backup. Joe Burrow was the starter basically by default, just because he was the number 1 overall pick, and what the hell else did Cincinnati have? Jordan Love can't even beat out the Packers' backup. That does make me think. You see what Aaron Rodgers is doing this season, and you see how incredible he's been. Can you imagine if the Packers had maybe just put some picks together and traded up in the draft, and drafted a guy like a Justin Jefferson? Can you imagine if they were able to put some picks together and have gone up in the draft and just drafted anyone that wasn't A.J. Dillon or the 3rd round pick tight end that they drafted, or Jordan Love. Can you just imagine if they took anybody else? Maybe they even have to trade up. Just take anybody else. They wasted this pick on Jordan Love, I think. I really think they did. If this is the Aaron Rodgers you're getting now with Marquez Valdes-Scantling being the number one receiver against Atlanta, the Packers, you made a mistake. Aaron Rodgers has been on one. He's the highest graded quarterback in the NFL by Pro Football Focus. He has looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old, and you gave him nothing. A.J. Dillon is barely a part of their offense at this point. I think their third round tight end, I think he's out for the season. And Jordan Love, they don't even have packages for him. They don't have packages for him. He's literally just on the roster, sitting on the bench. Now, maybe in 3 seasons, he will be something, but I'm talking about specifically for Aaron Rodgers right now in this window they are in where he's playing at an elite level. They messed up. They didn't help Aaron Rodgers at all. You know what they did, if anything? All they did was really light a fire underneath him, and I guess if you want to say that was the point of drafting Jordan Love, then okay. You know what, the Packers, they hit it. They hit it out of the park. Everything is going to be A-okay, everything's going to be golden now, but I don't buy it. I just don't. I think they drafted him because they honestly thought Aaron Rodgers was on his way out, and now he's proving everybody wrong this season, and hey, you know what? When the facts change, you change your mind. When new information comes out, you change your mind. You don't stay beholden to your old opinion because that makes you a rigid person, and ultimately then no one's going to want to be around you and no one's going to want to work with you. Aaron Rodgers, proving everybody wrong. The opinions have to change. The Packers probably made a mistake, and if you're going to tell me in 3 seasons or whatever they're going to look and trade him away, or maybe Aaron Rodgers by that point in time, they want to go ahead and move off of him, who knows? I still think it's wasted. I still just think it's a wasted pick. Herbert's playing, he's great. Burrow's playing, he's great. I think Tua should be playing, but at least he's the backup. Jordan Love couldn't even win the backup job? Terrible pick. I don't get it. And I think the Packers are going to come at least at some point in time to regret it because they haven't maximized their window. They could have given him another receiver. They could have given him something. And they just didn't. Anyways, coming up next, final topic of the day, we're going to get into New England and Kansas City, talk about some of the takeaways from the game that I saw. I think New England can be a contender, and Kansas City should absolutely scare the bejesus out of everybody. That coming up next, final topic of the day. Thank you for tuning in.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Final topic of the day. Last segment talked about some of the younger quarterbacks in this league, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, how they are flourishing, and how I believe it is time to go ahead and start Tua. And then as it pertains to the Packers, for them to have drafted the 4th quarterback, and he's the only quarterback who couldn't even beat out the backup and win the backup job, that's very, very concerning to me. I think that when you look at the way this game is, and you know, you look at Dwayne Haskins, right, he's been benched. You look at these other younger quarterbacks, these rookies who are coming out like game busters, throwing 300 yards, aren't really turning the football over. They're keeping their team super competitive. This is just the way the game is. I think Tua should go ahead and start. I think, maybe you start him after their bye week. You start him against one of the weaker defenses. And then as it pertains to Jordan Love, I just think there's a real chance that pick could be a wasted pick. They could have gotten Aaron Rodgers some help, and they just chose not to. But one of the games that I was really looking forward to for this coming week for this week, was supposed to be New England and Kansas City. Because I thought what I was going to get was Cam Newton versus Mahomes. And Cam Newton in New England looked outstanding. They worked way better than I think anybody really thought they would. The only reason why I had concerns about how they would work is because he's such a different style of quarterback. It had nothing to do with Cam Newton's attitude. It had nothing to do with his personality. I simply thought, this isn't really a pocket passer like Bill's used to working with. How is this going to work? Cam Newton, he's not the passer that Tom Brady's ever been. He's not as accurate as Tom Brady's ever been. He's more of a mobile threat, so that's a different element. But how would it work? And then following New England's game, I realized Cam Newton is literally their offense. He's low turnover, high playmaking ability. He can extend third downs better than Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer. He just makes better plays. He is New England's offense. You saw with Brian Hoyer and with Jarrett Stidham, they still really only ran the football. With Cam Newton, they actually trust him to throw it. They actually trust him to make the right decision. And then more importantly, you have the added element of his game to where you can run a read option, you can run quarterback draws. If you do call a passing play and it breaks down, Cam Newton can extend it and run for the first down. Cam Newton showed exactly how valuable he is to New England by not playing in that game. He showed everybody how valuable he is, and even though it's only 4 games into the season, we've only seen Cam in 3 of them, we need to see what happens as the season goes on. Unless New England plans on drafting a quarterback or they see a guy in free agency that they can grab or, whatever the case may be, I feel like Cam Newton is kind of perfect for this. I feel like Cam Newton, he kind of belongs in New England. The way that things have looked, Bill Belichick has been very complimentary of Cam Newton. Cam Newton's out here giving everybody nicknames, including Bill Belichick. I mean, things just look like they've really meshed. And it looks like Cam Newton, he's having a lot of fun in New England, and that this is a welcomed breath of fresh air for him. That what he really needed was this kind of an environment. He wanted, to learn under Bill Belichick, to learn in this system, to play the way that they do. It just looks like a match made in heaven. That's what it's really turned out to be. That you had so many people in the sports media and writing articles and columns and talking on radio saying, oh, I don't know, can Cam check his ego though? Can he check his ego? I don't know, is his personality going to mesh with Bill Belichick? And we're not even going to get into why it is that all sounds wrong. But it's worked great. And one of the takeaways I had from that game was if Cam Newton was playing, they would have won. New England, they definitely would have won. You take away those turnovers, and you look at what Bill Belichick does to Patrick Mahomes in first halves. I mean, he keeps him out of the end zone. He keeps him out of the red zone. Bill Belichick against Patrick Mahomes in the first half of games, he makes Patrick Mahomes look average to below average. Bill Belichick's defense, even with all those opt-outs, he is still great. It is still a very good defense. Everyone's in place. Nobody gets beat deep. I mean, they don't make any of the mistakes. Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind in NFL history. Or at least he's one of the two. He's either 1 or 2. I don't know who you'd put it to, but he's up there. And he is the greatest head coach of all time. He and Tom Brady both deserve credit. You look at what they're both doing with their teams, they both deserve credit. I know coming into the season, it was a battle between who gets more credit, who finishes with the better record. If Cam Newton was playing this game, I honestly think they would have won. Cam Newton's ability to extend third downs, he's a better passer than Hoyer, he's a better passer than Jarrett Stidham by the simple fact that he's not as turnover prone. And I just think they would have won. And obviously I can't prove it.
Who knows how Kansas City would have attacked them? Kansas City, maybe against Cam Newton, everyone's a bit more locked in because they know there's a former MVP over there, and they know the kind of threat Cam Newton poses. Maybe they bring more of their A game. Maybe Kansas City's able to score a bit more in the first half. Who knows? But one of the things I noticed watching New England, their offensive line, one of the best run-blocking offensive lines in the NFL. Cleveland is by far and away number one. But New England is very good themselves, and they have a rookie offensive lineman who's an absolute hit, and Isaiah Wynn's been a hit. Their offensive line, it's not going to deteriorate anytime soon. They're drafting well, and they're coaching well, so that offensive line's going to stay intact. And then when it comes to everyone knows their role. Everyone has a job to do, and everyone does it at a very, very high defined level, right? And Julian Edelman, obviously, he was a drop machine last year. He looks like he's starting to anticipate hits a bit more, and it's affecting his ability to catch, because once again, a ball just skips off of his hands into Honey Badger's arms, and it's a pick six. I just think, and you look at Patrick Mahomes himself, he had a few turnover-worthy plays. He had some dropped interceptions. I mean, that was not a great game by Mahomes. That defense is able to confuse him. Bill Belichick is able to confuse him. And I think every single defensive coordinator should look at what Bill Belichick was doing, and they should do their best to replicate it. Obviously, again, the secondary of the Patriots was supposed to be the strong suit. It's just kind of surprised some people that their pass rush is doing what it's doing, and that the rest of the defense is showing up. That's really kind of the surprise. All the opt-outs they had in their defense is still going out there and balling and keeping their offense in games even when they're just turning the ball over left and right and taking dumb sacks. If Cam Newton was playing, they would have won, and I think going forward, if Cam Newton is healthy and he's playing and he's the starter and barring any injury, this team can 100% be a playoff threat. They can be a Super Bowl threat. They can upset some people here, and I don't even know how much of an upset it'd be. Because Cam Newton was playing great before he got COVID. The team in general was really gelling, and they were only getting better. I just think going forward, this New England team, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough, and if you think that you're going to get a cheap, easy win against this team, you're joking. I think the only thing they need is a deep threat. And Odell Beckham appears now to kind of be, he's off the market. Even though the Browns said he was never on the market, he's definitely off the market at this point. I don't know. Maybe try and trade for Julio Jones. Get Julio Jones out of Atlanta. They have wasted that man's career. All the fantastic numbers he's put up and no winning. They're just not winning anything. Get Julio Jones out of Atlanta. But then when it comes to the Chiefs, kind of one of the takeaways I have in this, before I want to get into the reports that came out about Stephon Gilmore, with the Chiefs, people should be terrified of the Chiefs because even when their offense isn't on it, their defense is good enough to shut you down and to cause you a lot of problems. Their pass rush, one of the best in the league. Frank Clark, Chris Jones when he's healthy. Now you got Taco Charlton out there making plays. The Cowboys, they gave up on him. Their defensive backfield, Thornhill, Honey Badger, their corners when they're both healthy. I know they're dealing with some injuries back there. I think one's playing with a broken hand. The other one, their rookie, he ended up getting hurt. I can't remember his name, but they ended up getting hurt. So they've kind of taken a few nicks here and there. But all in all, this defense is good. They play hard. Sorensen, all those guys, they are a well-oiled machine. And so even when their offense isn't really clicking on all cylinders, their defense can still keep them in the game. And that was something that they brought up Patrick Mahomes' rookie year. He didn't really have. His defense was one of the worst in the league, and he literally had to go out there week after week after week and score 30, 40 points. That was how the Chiefs had to win. Nowadays, Patrick Mahomes can actually afford the struggle. He can afford to not play his best game because his defense can actually keep people out of the end zone and can actually keep teams even from getting in the field goal range. That's a great luxury to have. And the thing is, even if you do hold down Mahomes in the first half, just wait until the second. Because he will figure you out. Andy Reid will figure you out, and they will call some plays, and they will hit you deep eventually. They will hit you for some trick plays, some deception plays, whatever the case may be. And they will get down that field, and they will score on you. If you think you're shutting Kansas City out for a whole game, you're out of your mind. The only game in which Kansas City you can realistically say got shut out was last year against the Colts. At least I believe it was last year. I believe it was last year against the Colts. That Colts team really just confused Kansas City, and they shut them down. I don't remember what the final score was, but it was very low scoring. They ran all over them, and they just really confused Patrick Mahomes. That was the closest I think anyone has ever gotten to shutting out Mahomes. Not even Bill Belichick has been able to shut out Mahomes for a whole half. There's a great chance that these two teams could be the final two teams in the AFC Championship game. I do believe it. I think that no matter what the Chiefs are going to be there, it just kind of depends on who are the Chiefs going to face. Will they face the Ravens? Will they face the Patriots? Could they maybe face the Bills? Who knows? It's kind of the Chiefs' invitational at this point. The NFC is still up for grabs. Who knows? Is it Green Bay? Is it Seattle? Could it be the Rams? Who knows? But when it comes to the AFC, I think most people, there still is the consensus. It is Mahomes, and then there is everybody else. It's the Chiefs, and then there's all the other teams. Now, on Wednesday, early in the morning, there was some COVID-related news. Stephon Gilmore had tested positive for COVID-19. And at least at the moment, I don't know if there's been any updates, but at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 players on the Patriots who have tested positive for COVID. It was Cam Newton, it was Stephon Gilmore, and they have a practice squad D tackle named Bill Murray, which is very interesting. I mean, there's a cornerback in the league named Lamar Jackson. We've got Bill Murray. There's a lot of guys who are just named after famous people. Really interesting. But anyways, more to the point. So, Stephon Gilmore now testing positive for COVID. All that makes me think is, how is the NFL, is there any way they can change their testing protocols? Remember, there is an incubation period for COVID-19. If someone with COVID-19 coughs on you, and then you immediately go and get tested, there's a great chance you're not going to test positive for COVID. In fact, I'd say there's like a 100% chance you won't test positive. It has to take time to enter your body, enter your bloodstream before you can actually test positive. So some of these guys, they get tested and they test negative, and then they go out there and a day later, COVID has now finally set into their body, then they take a test, and then all of a sudden they have it. Or at least they will finally test positive that they actually have it. I don't know if there's a way you can change this. Because Stephon Gilmore tests positive for it, and then this image goes out. He and Patrick Mahomes met up in the middle of the field, were hugging, talking to each other, and this is the kind of thing that the NFL was trying to stop people from doing. They were trying to tell people, please do not exchange jerseys, please try and keep your distance from each other, but we all knew that wasn't going to happen. It's the after-game ritual. Players get together and they talk to each other, especially the really good players on both teams. They get together and they talk to each other, they mingle, they become friends, and I'm sure Stephon Gilmore and Patrick Mahomes are probably friends. They're probably cool with each other. I don't know if they necessarily text each other, but they're probably aware of how great they both are as individual players, and they have a common respect. So they go and they meet up in the middle, and now there's kind of that fear of what happens if Patrick Mahomes tests positive for COVID. The face of America, as sad as that might be, has already tested positive for COVID. Patrick Mahomes is the face of the NFL. What happens if he tests positive for COVID? It does make me think, will the NFL start to really push down on these players, and will they start to regulate them even more? Because remember, the thing with the NBA bubble was that the players literally had nowhere to go. Their entire life down in the bubble was being monitored and controlled. Yes, they had games they could go to. I think they did have access to the park, so they weren't completely bored. They weren't like isolated to only their rooms, unless they actually did test positive. In that case, they had to be quarantined. But when it came to the NFL, these guys go home after every single game. They can go anywhere that they want to. There is no regulating it. And so the thing was, you had to trust these guys to just not go and mess up. You had to trust them to wear their mask everywhere they went. And I'm sure there's some of them that probably aren't. I'm sure there's a lot of them that aren't. I'm sure there's a lot of them that probably think it's a hoax and that it's not serious. But it's that thing of, I really hope everyone just takes the Kirk Cousins route. Even though you don't think yourself that you're going to get it, or even if you were to get it yourself, you're not exactly concerned, you think you'd be fine. It's about the other people that you could possibly infect. I would hope everyone was taking that approach to it. But the odds of all 1,700 players in the NFL doing it is between slim and none. There's no way they're all doing it. With Patrick Mahomes, though, testing positive, it just makes me, or if he was to test positive, I should say, it makes me think, how would the NFL react to it? But remember, if LeBron James tested positive for COVID, I am sure the NBA would have probably shut things down. The NBA probably would have said, oh God, no, we are taking ultimate precautions, there's no way we can do this. LeBron James tested positive? Oh, hell no. Well, Patrick Mahomes right now is the face of the NFL. He right now is like the LeBron James of the NFL. He's the face, he's the guy everyone talks about, he's the quarterback everyone wants on their team, he's the one who can make anything work. He's the one who makes all the ridiculous throws, the arm angles, What happens if he tests positive? Well, number one for the Chiefs, I think it would just depend on how long he's gone. We've seen they can tread water pretty well without Mahomes. I don't know if they'd bring back Matt Moore. I think he's on their practice squad right now, so I don't know if they'd bring him all the way back and say, hey, yo, man, come on, play a game. Let's do this. I don't know if they go that far, but you'd assume he'd probably miss a week or two, probably just a week of action. I don't think it would really affect the Chiefs too much. It would just be more of, how does it affect Mahomes? And as for Gilmore, I hope he's okay. I would assume he probably got it from Cam. Or if there's somebody else on that team who's positive for it, who just, the test hasn't come back, I don't know. But I'm sure more of these cases are going to come out. More and more people will test positive, but then the people who originally did test positive will then test negative. I know the Titans, for at least the last few days, they haven't had any positive tests come out, which is great. So they should be able to get back to playing here soon, because they had a complete mass outbreak amongst their organization. As for the Patriots, I guess you just kind of hope it doesn't happen. For the Chiefs, you hope none of their players get infected. But this is the world we live in. This is the season we're going to get. This is the COVID season, and you just hope that everybody is okay in the very end of the day. So, Thursday Night Football. Bears, Buccaneers. I'm not really sure what to expect from this game. I think the Bears' defense is great. I think the Bears' defense should be able to keep them in this game. The question's going to be, what Nick Foles are we going to get? Are we going to get the Super Bowl Nick Foles? Or are we going to get the Nick Foles that we saw last week against the Colts? Or I shouldn't even say last week, just last Sunday against the Colts. You know, which Nick Foles are we going to get? Are we going to get the Nick Foles who goes out there and slings it all over the field and is just dropping dimes? Or are we going to get a Nick Foles who looks immobile and looks inaccurate and looks like he just can't read the defense? I don't know. Todd Bowles' defense is good. This team is good. Their offense is starting to click even more. Tom Brady, he looks like he's settling into these guys, and he has a good rapport already with Mike Evans. So, I guess if I had to predict it, I would go ahead and say I think that Tampa Bay is going to win it, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Bears will be able to fight back. It's a short week. I think their defense will put pressure on Brady. I think they might be able to force him into some mistakes. The question's going to be, then can the Bears capitalize on those mistakes? And I think when it comes to just Todd Bowles' defense, I think they generate great pressure. Their linebackers are great, and their secondary plays really good football when it clues in and when it finally all clicks. They play great. I will take the Buccaneers to go ahead and win this game, but I think it will be a close game. Anyways, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us out. Also, if you can, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.